Reparations is becoming a mainstream Democratic talking point. Now, this is obviously a crazy idea for a whole host of reasons. I don't even know where to begin with it. But first of all, a large percentage of Black Americans in this country now are not descended from slaves, because people immigrate here from Africa every year. Thousands of people come here from Africa. So there's a large percentage of Black Americans who came to this country after slavery had already been abolished. Second, a very large percentage of white people are not only not descended from slave owners, but their ancestors weren't even in the country during the slavery era. My ancestors were dying of the potato famine while slavery was happening here in America. To kind of break this down, white people versus Black people, and say, well, the white people have to pay the Black people for slavery, doesn't make any sense. Third, even if you limited reparations to only those Black Americans who are descended from slaves, and you took money only from those white Americans whose families lived here during slave times, which isn't how it would work or could work, but even if it did work that way, it would still be incredibly unjust, because you're punishing people for the sins of long dead relatives, and you're rewarding other people for hardships that they themselves did not experience. Now, if this was 1860 and we were talking about reparations, then I would say, okay, yeah, but it's not. It's 2019. It's 150 years later. Fourth thing, liberals love to talk about spectrums, right? Gender is a spectrum. Everything's a spectrum. Well, oppression and privilege is also a spectrum, right? That also exists. You have oppression over here and privilege over here, and there's a spectrum as you get closer to privilege. Slavery was a unique horror, but it's not the only form of oppression. It was worse in degree from other forms, but it's not alone in the category of oppression. So if we're giving people payments for historical persecution, then what about Native Americans? What about women who couldn't even vote in this country until 100 years ago? What about the Japanese who were sent to internment camps? What about any other ethnic or racial minority that experienced prejudice? What about the Irish who were persecuted in their home country and then came here and were discriminated against when they got here? If you think the Irish have had it easy historically, then I would encourage you to pick up a book and read it. The point is, it's actually not easy to find people in America whose ancestors did not suffer some form of persecution or discrimination. It's very difficult to do. I mean, arguably I wouldn't even say arguably, most people can say that they belong to a category that at one point in America, and certainly elsewhere in the world, was discriminated against. So you pretty much have to limit yourself to white, male, Protestant Anglo-Saxons. That's probably the only group you can find that has not been widely and historically discriminated against in America. Now, and that's not because America was uniquely racist or uniquely prejudiced. It was, for a while, simply non-uniquely prejudiced. For a very long time, the entire world was tribalistic, discriminatory, suspicious of outsiders, and so on. That's the way human civilization worked for thousands of years. But if we're doing reparations, I don't see how you can ignore those other groups. I think they should get something too, shouldn't they?